It's our NXT Takeover 25 review, and we'll compare it to All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling's All Out. Ralph, we were at NXT Takeover 25. It was a great show. We're going to go through each match by match. And, not only did we see a great match, we actually saw some of our fans enjoy a great match too. And
Yes.
we want to give a shout out to him, Nick Jimenez. Shout out to him who spotted us in the parking lot.
Yep.
And we had a nice conversation with him.
Yeah, we got to talk to him really quickly before the event, and then after the event, talked a lot about NXT, WWE, the parking situation. So
Yeah.
to Nick, thank you for the support throughout the year, and keep supporting us along the way.
Thank you very much, Nick, again. And let's start off with the first match of the night. It was Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong in a great opening match. To me, I thought this was the stiffest NXT match I've ever seen. There were knees, there were elbows, there were punches. I'm shocked no one broke a jaw in this match.
Right. Yeah, this was definitely a hard-hitting match. Good back and forth action throughout. Roderick Strong, a guy who's obviously been in NXT for a little while. Matt Riddle, kind of a newcomer, I guess, at this point. But if you followed Matt Riddle on the independent scene, even Roderick Strong for that matter, you kind of expected this. But it was a great opening match, good back and forth action, good drama. The crowd was eating it up. I loved it.
Yeah, it was definitely a great match. Great way to start off the show, but then it got better as the night went on. Our next match was the tag team ladder match. We have the Forgotten Sons versus the Street Profits versus Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish and Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch.
Right.
Wow, the pain and suffering these guys went through.
Yep.
I think this ladder match was definitely better than both Money in the Bank ladder matches that we saw a couple weeks ago in Hartford.
Yeah, one could definitely argue that. I think the thing I took away from this was I did predict the Street Profits to go over in this match. They
Mhm.
were ultimately the team that ended up winning. They remind me a lot of Enzo and Cass, just in the sense of, the type of connection that they have with the crowd. Because when they won, they went in the crowd, and I don't know if this made it onto the actual TV, the showing on the WWE app or not, but when they were in the crowd, the fans were eating that up.
Yep.
So I'd be interested to see. I got to watch it back and see if that was actually on TV.
I
But
did watch it back this morning, and they did show shots of them
yeah,
celebrating in the crowd. And
yep,
you know, this was really my first real take on the Street Profits, and they were very, very impressive.
yeah, yep,
Montez Ford is definitely a risk taker and will throw it all over the place and had some incredible spots. I love the way the match ended with him jumping from the turnbuckle onto the ladder.
yes, yep,
The camera did not really do a good job of spot grabbing this shot, but he, going from the turnbuckle to the middle of the ring and basically was right in reach of the belt. Impressive stuff. And
right,
he had the great I don't know if they don't call it the eclipse, but eclipse like move that he did from the turnbuckle onto one of the Forgotten Sons. Kyle O'Reilly, though,
yeah,
this
yep,
guy took a beating.
yep. And despite the Street Profits having a successful performance and having people talk about them, I think the biggest talk out of this match was probably the beating that Kyle O'Reilly took,
Mhm.
because he took some serious bumps throughout the night. And I saw recent on Twitter, somebody asked him, how you doing? How you feeling today? And he said, why does everybody keep asking me that? So he seems like he's holding up just fine. Bobby Fish, he came out in a sling, so I don't know. Hopefully he's not hurt,
Yeah.
because he just came back from injury not too long ago. But yeah, again, another amazing match.
Yeah. And then we move on to our ring psychology match of the night. Velveteen Dream versus Tyler Breeze for the
Yep.
North American Championship. You know, I'm a big Velveteen Dream fan. And for the most part, I like Tyler Breeze. I thought this was going to be a good match. It did deliver. And there was a good story between the two, and their characters definitely mesh well.
Yep.
I do think though there was just a little something missing in this match.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I mean, I think it was a good match, but I don't think it necessarily was the type of match that people were expecting, especially because, Tyler Breeze was one of the more over guys or one of the focal points of NXT going back to when he was there. Obviously, we know he's been on the main card for quite some time now, not necessarily having the most successful run, which actually played into this. So I don't know if it was where people just kind of viewed him as not important or not caring about it, and that took away from the match. But I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a good match. It wasn't great, but that's all right because the matches throughout the night were solid throughout. So I think it
Right.
was fine for what it was.
Yeah, it definitely was. So we get to our next match here. It was Shayna Baszler versus Io Shirai for the
Yep.
women's championship. I think this, if there was a low point of the night, I think this match was it. I couldn't really get too invested into it just because I think 98% of the NXT audience assumed that Shayna was going to win.
Yeah.
And, you know, uh, to me, it seems like the women's division took the biggest hit in the last few months
Mhm.
with all these NXT call ups because who's really there right now to be built as a threat for Shayna Baszler to be
Right.
dethroned as women's champion? Don't get me wrong, Io Shirai is a great wrestler, and she did a great job in this match. But she just got into the scene.
Yep.
You have Bianca Belair, who
She
kind of
already beat her twice, I
right,
think.
right. She beat her twice, and they kind of rushed her into that scene
Yep.
because they had no one else left,
Yep.
and she was undefeated. So you got to put someone there. It seems like now Candice LeRae, maybe Mia Yim, but there's still a long way to go before they built them up. And yes, the next takeover is what? SummerSlam weekend. So there's 3 months of build you can
Right.
do. So, but
I expected this outcome. We talked about this, and I feel like if they were to, I think everybody assumes if Shayna Baszler loses, she's getting called up, which
Right.
I think she could be great on the main card. But I just don't think that based on where people are positioned right now, both on SmackDown and Raw, she'd be inserted into a main storyline. And I think she's ready for something like that right out
Right.
of the gate. So I think the right choice is to keep her in NXT. I don't think necessarily rushing to take the belt off her just for a good pop. I mean, don't get me wrong. If she dropped the title last night to Io Shirai, that place would have went nuts.
Yes.
But I think they're gonna get to that. It's just a matter of timing, making sure that everything's lined up. So when they do call up Shayna Baszler, she can make a good impact on one of the main cards on Raw or SmackDown, and then making sure there's enough contenders.
Mhm.
Because if she leaves. And let's suppose Io Shirai is the champion. You got to have people that she can compete against.
Right.
So they got to kind of rebuild and revamp that whole women's division in NXT.
Exactly. So let's move on though to the main event.
Yeah.
Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano for the NXT Championship. I got this one right. Adam Cole, baby.
Absolutely.
I actually was predicting a clean sweep with the Undisputed Era, but the only one that we actually got was Adam Cole winning the NXT Championship. And actually, it surprised me because once we saw Roddy Strong lose and then Fish and O'Reilly lose, it just seemed inevitable that Cole was
Right.
going to lose.
Right.
These guys had an unbelievable match.
Yep.
It's hard to say whether or not it was better than the TakeOver New York match, but from what I'm seeing on social media, a lot of people are saying that this definitely was better of
Yeah.
the two.
And we were there for both those matches, and both were amazing matches. I don't really know if it's fair to compare the matches. I think we get too caught up in the era of, oh, this is a 5-star match, this is a 4, a 6, compared to Kenny Omega, compared to this or that. Can't we just have good matches anymore and just appreciate it for what it was? So
Well, now you're talking like Lance Storm from what was that, back
exactly.
in
No, but
October?
I mostly agree with what he said in that. So, yeah, I think they were both great matches. This one certainly exceeded my expectations and probably a lot of people's expectations, only because that being one of the best matches of the year, their last one, who really thought that they would be able to meet that or surpass it? And they blew it out of the water with
Yeah,
this
they
match.
definitely did. And Adam Cole looked very, very good in this match.
Yes, he
From
certainly did.
a ring psychology, from a storytelling, from a technical perspective, this to me was his best match.
Yeah. There was a few things that stood out to me. Obviously, Adam Cole is insanely over.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given. No matter where he goes, I've been to 3 or 4 takeovers now, and every time I see Adam Cole, just the reaction he gets from the crowd
Right.
is amazing.
Yep.
I was a little surprised at the reaction Johnny Gargano got. He did get booed a little bit as the match kind of went on, similar to like their previous match. It was kind of split. You know, you'd get the dueling chants back and forth. Let's Johnny wrestling, you know, Adam Cole. So there was that dynamic to it, but I think that's more a sense of people wanting to see Adam Cole win so badly and not so much a negative reflection on Johnny Gargano.
You know, it's funny because when we went to Takeover New York, it was very similar where,
Yep.
you know, Adam Cole was getting a lot of the chants early on, but then the crowd turned and it became a Johnny Gargano.
Right.
But now this time it didn't happen. There wasn't that turn for Johnny Gargano midway
Right.
through. This was a full-blown Adam Cole crowd in
Yeah.
Bridgeport.
Yep.
And it, you know, throughout the match, I don't know if this was quite picked up in the broadcast, but you had several times people would just start Adam Cole and the rest of the crowd would go, baby,
Yeah.
throughout the night. But I do want to bring up the elephant in the room just because it's there.
Yep.
It's there. Before the match, they take a shot of Stephanie McMahon, who is in the front row with her kids, and it seemed like a couple of the daughter's friends or whatever. But they had it in such an angle that you could see 4 seats to her left was Britt Baker.
Right.
So obviously Britt Baker's there to support her boyfriend, Adam Cole. But, you know, with everything happening with Vince Russo saying this is all a work.
Yeah, it only supports his theory, which, you know, I think I don't buy that theory. I still don't think they're in bed together.
No.
You think the shot was done intentionally? You think she was putting the shot purposely?
I don't think so. I think the cameraman was just trying to get Stephanie in the shot. Just by, you know, the way the cameramen are positioned, that was probably the best way to do it there. And it just so happened that she was in the bottom left. I actually had to ask you, I'm like, was that Britt Baker in the bottom left corner?
Yep.
And, you know, we found out if it in fact was.
Yes.
And I found it more interesting that they put her like smack dab in the middle of that row where the camera that follows the action can't see her. So she's got her seat, but you're not really going to see her. But then when they go to the outside, there she is supporting Adam Cole.
Right. Well, there was one theory I had for that. So one of the things I did notice from this show was that row or that section, kind of the middle section, middle tier section, if you will. There were a lot of empty seats.
Yes.
Here, which was a little disappointing. I don't know if that means we're probably not going to get another takeover for quite some time, but Connecticut isn't necessarily known as you know, one of the bigger towns for wrestling. Like, yes,
ever
they
since
do
the
get some,
Coliseum left, ever since the New England Coliseum left,
they get some big events, but certainly you probably stand a better chance of selling out a Barclays or somewhere in Philly or Chicago. Those are like wrestling towns.
And don't forget too, this one was also thrown together last minute.
Yeah,
You know,
it seems like that.
This was supposed to be in, I think, San Jose, and then they moved it to Bridgeport, and I guess they were trying to move the takeover away from the Saudi Arabia show. And there's a lot of backstage stuff, backstage politics that led into it. But
and you said you watched it. Did that come across on TV? Because I read on Twitter that it actually looked really dark, so you couldn't see it. So.
It did look dark. I think that was more because of how the lighting was set up. You don't like when you go to a WWE event. Like when we went to Money in the Bank, there was a huge lighting rig. Whereas NXT, it was just one rig that surrounded it, and all the lights were pointing to the ring.
Yeah.
So it was more just production, the lighting setup than it was trying to hide that there were no seats. Because the hard cam audience was full.
Yep.
It was just that one section where that hard cam was positioned that it was empty. I mean, for what it was, I think the turnout was decent. I think it could have been better, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God, we're never going to get an NXT event again.
Well, no matter what the size of the crowd was, it definitely didn't take away from the experience and the ability of the crowd to buy into every single thing that went on that night.
Right.
It was a very rowdy crowd.
It was a rowdy crowd. And to me, when I heard that crowd, I'm like, man, I know this arena is small, but this building can do a Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
They really, I mean, Connecticut gets the short end of the stick a lot because it's Connecticut's right between Boston and New York. So you don't, you know, you're always finding that demographics. And that's why the Hartford Whalers left, not getting into the sports of it all, but that's probably why we don't see Raw and SmackDown as frequently. We get more house shows in Hartford. We get
Right,
more, I
right.
mean, you'll see more Raws on Hartford than anything, but you still get a lot of house shows in Bridgeport, a lot of house shows in Hartford, and that's about it. So this is a big moment, and I think the turnout was pretty well, and the
Right.
crowd was very good to at least maybe down the line we'll get another takeover or NXT event. Raw and SmackDown will be tough, but we'll see. Uh, Again, the crowd goes over for Adam Cole as he wins.
Yep.
Huge pop for him winning.
Expected.
And, we see the Undisputed Era come out and celebrate with them. Bobby Fish comes out in a sling. So it wasn't really explained if he got hurt during the match. If this was a work, if this is a legit injury, what the extent of it is. So hopefully we learn about that in the future. But let's talk about it because I know this has been a social media discussion. We had 2 polls up. We had one on our YouTube community page. If you're subscribed to us, you get instant access to that. And our Twitter page, which if you follow us there at SCPB Podcast, we had 2 very different results here.
Yeah.
On our Twitter page, we had 59% say that TakeOver was better than Double or Nothing. On our YouTube community page, we had 86 people vote that Double or Nothing was better than TakeOver 25.
Yep.
You watched Double or Nothing.
I did.
We were at TakeOver 25. Which was better?
I almost feel like it's unfair to compare both of them. I think if we're just looking at in-ring work solely, I think TakeOver was better. And the reason I say I'm comparing it based on the in-ring work is obviously we were there live for one of them and we watched one on pay-per-view. So you're always going to have a different perspective or experience when you're at a show live rather than, watching it on TV. Crowd-wise, whether we were there live or watching it on TV, I think everybody was invested in both Double or Nothing, and I think people were certainly invested in TakeOver.
Right.
And then if you look at Double or Nothing, they really had their 3 big matches, obviously, were their last 3. And I think the best match of the night was obviously Cody and Dustin.
Right.
Compare that to Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, if you even want to compare them. I think they were similar matches, but also very different, if that makes any type of sense. So they were both psychological type matches, but at the same time, Cody and Dustin was much more of an emotional type match. A lot more psychology in the sense that, you really had to follow what was being done outside of just that match
Right.
to really know what was going on and understand the backstory to it. And Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, of course, they had a great match, and they told a good story and all of that. But the match would have been great just for the match itself.
Here's how it's hard to compare when Double or Nothing had 9 matches on their card.
Yeah, and that's another very good point.
And TakeOver had 5.
Yes. Yeah.
So here's how I would compare the 2. You have the 2 opening matches, which in this case we'll say Roddy Strong and Matt Riddle and SCU and OWE. I think Matt Riddle and Roderick Strong had the better match of those 2.
Okay.
The tag team ladder match, we have that versus the ladder match and the Young Bucks versus Pentagon. I think the ladder match was better of those. Then we have the storytelling match, which was Dream and Breeze versus Cody and Dustin. I think Cody and Dustin were far better in that regard.
Definitely, yeah.
The women's match, I think both of them weren't ones to write home about, but I'll give the slight edge to the Fatal 4-Way between Nyla, Britt, Kylie, and Awesome Kong.
Yeah.
Just because of the moment of Awesome Kong coming out and the great in-ring work that we had between Britt Baker and Kylie Ray. Not by much. And of course, the main event, I think Gargano and Cole were much better than Omega and Jericho.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, if somebody came up to me and said Double or Nothing was better than TakeOver, I would have said, okay. I'm not going to disagree with you. And if somebody came over to me and said Takeover was better than Double or Nothing, I'd say the same thing. You know, the thing about wrestling is it's very subjective. You know, somebody may have watched the Battle Royal, one of the opening match on Double or Nothing, and said, you know, I enjoyed that better than anything else. You know,
Right.
so it's up to the person to determine what's entertaining and what's not. And it's not fair for us or anybody else to say, you know, you're wrong because you like that better than this. But both great shows. I think Double or Nothing is certainly going to be known for its historical impact. Takeover 25, obviously, it was a great show either way. So they were both great at the end of the day.
So let us know what you think. Which one was better? All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing or NXT Takeover 25? You can vote on the poll above my head. Comment below. Don't forget to share this all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. Subscribe, hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling's all out. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti, and thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psychobabble.
We're done, poop.